We Are Who We Are on HBO, the Luca Guadagnino, Guadagnino, yeah, I think I said that right, miniseries,
Mhm.
which wrapped up actually last week. We're reviewing it a week late because we've had things going on in our lives, but uh, I found this show to be almost exactly kind of what I thought it was gonna be, which is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it like properly met my
Oh,
expectations,
that's
which I
good.
think were be yeah, to be very visually um like stunning and pleasant to look at, to explore these themes, but maybe not really give a perspective, like a very strong perspective one way or the other, just kind of to explore them and let the viewer make their opinions of it. And got really strong performances, not only from the adults, but also these teenagers killed it. I really thought the acting in this was strong. So overall, I thought it was well done. I mean, it's Luca, so to be
Right.
expected, but I'm wondering if you're on the same page with me on this.
I definitely think it's well done. I think we talked about this at the premiere episode, but like when you have Luca's sensibilities as the sole creative force really around the show, and he had some buddies helping him write, but like he's really framing everything about the show. That comes with expectations. I think he delivers on them, like you said. It's kind of that vibe that you expect from his stuff. This kind of whimsical, melancholy nature around young people coming of age, and he achieves that quite well. I think the locations are good, and you get a lot of good performances from young performers, relatively new performers. But it also had what I feared when I saw the first episode was that I had a hard time connecting with our lead performance, Jack Dylan Grazer as Frasier, uh, and that definitely framed a lot of my thoughts around the season. But because it's Luca and because it's not this grand sweeping thematic treatise. It's really vibey, and like you said, it's kind of by design more open ended and non declarative about things, whether that's obvious things like gender identity or just what you should take away from what happens to certain characters. Um, it was all quite intentional. So I respect that, but I had a hard time connecting with stuff. So for me, it was more episode to episode, whether I was having like the best time or just kind of enjoying with the technical stuff.
The episodes kind of almost are staggered that way, right? Like it feels like you would have one episode where it's like an excursion, something fun or light is happening. They're on the beach. They're, going to a house and throwing a party after a wedding. Like, they're going to a concert. Like, there's kind of those episodes, and then there's like the heavier stuff episodes. And in those other episodes, I think the heavier stuff is always like an underlying part and like something that's kind of the subtext to the situations. But you can definitely, I think, find some of these episodes more enjoyable than others. And um, I agree with you though on Jack Dylan Grazer's performance as Fraser. I just I think I'm not sure if that was intentionally supposed to be difficult to connect with, because it seems like this is a person who just has difficulty connecting with people in general, or if this was something about the way it was played by the actor that
Hmm.
made it hard. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good performance because I actually think it's intentional. I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
But to me, this grating personality from a really neurotic, immature, impulsive person is just not pleasant to be around when it's your lead performance. Like the whole like I don't like it when the lead is like the chaotic good, chaotic evil of it all. I prefer when that's a character interacting with our main protagonist. Um,
Mhm.
so it was very much up and down for me, just like the way the character's mood seemed to be up and down, scene to scene. Um, and I think maybe younger people might connect with it more. Like because like the coming of age, the acceptance of one's identity might be something people can latch onto when watching it. But I just had a hard time sympathizing with what Fraser was up to because he just seemed like a prick more often than not. Like it's simple as that. So that definitely got in the way for me, you know, because I think the costume department did good. He's definitely well dressed as a teenager who really likes high fashion, like, and
Mm-hmm.
like I think the line readings are good. Like like when he's like talking really fast or getting really animated. Like I think Grazer did a pretty good job, but it was pretty grating, and I think it was probably by design.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're supposed to be like connecting or with the experience of anybody, you probably connect more with the group of kids who don't like Fraser, right? The group who wants Caitlin to come and spend time with them, and not the other, because they see Fraser as grading. They feel like, as one person says, he doesn't know how to love, and I think they do a good job of explaining maybe why some of these behaviors and these ways of relating come about for Fraser, as you see how dysfunctional his home life is, and not only the how both of his parents seem to be going out and having affairs, but um, how he's moved from place to place based on this his mom's ascension through the army into a commanding role. How his mom looks at the world and treats boundaries and norms and relationships with his friends. It's all very muddied and muddled, and he's this like extremely like guarded person by using his weirdness. I do think it's a good performance, but I agree it's hard to connect with an actor like that. Did you find yourself connecting with Caitlin, played by Jordan Christine Simon?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a more well-rounded character. Has I think just better payoff throughout the season. You know, because she has more relationships, right? Like she has a relationship with her dad,
Yep.
played by Kid Cudi, her brother,
Mm-hmm.
Fraser, the other kids, love interests, right? There's a lot to her story, and I think I definitely understood and liked the narrative arc of her relationship with Kid Cudi versus Fraser's relationship with his mom, Chloe Sevigny, and his mom's wife. Like I played by Alice Braga. Like I didn't connect with that one nearly as much.
Yeah, I think also Caitlin's journey feels so much more fulfilling and rewarding. The last episode, um, you're kind of so they're at this for those that didn't watch but want to know what happened. They go to this Blood Orange concert, which Blood Orange is kind of like a running theme throughout
Yeah,
the season. Obviously, Dev Hines scored the
yeah,
season.
super meta.
Yeah, incredibly meta,
Yo, Dev
and
Hines, bro, he's a genius.
I know, right? A little heavy-handed there, but um, it it ends up where Fraser goes off with this person he met on the train very impulsively and leaves Caitlin behind, and Caitlin ends up having feeling like she needs to leave the concert based on something that happens with another person there that she starts hooking up with, and Fraser isn't there. Like they're separated when this was like their big like last moment together. And I just found myself so angry at Fraser and just like wanting him to like come and comfort Caitlin and like not be so selfish. And I think that's the difference. Kind of what you're talking about is it's hard to root for somebody who acts the way Fraser does, but Caitlin is kind of like that like goodness to the show. That person who's there for everybody, who even in someone like Fraser who's grading and hard can see the bright spots and connect with them. I think uh, Caitlin's journey as well with her gender identity, sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
is by far the most interesting exploration of that throughout the season. And you see quite a bit of sexual fluidity in the season, but the gender fluidity is pretty much strictly through Caitlin's experience. I thought that was really well done, and not like you mentioned the Dev Hines thing being heavy handed. I thought they did that with a lot of tact. Not necessarily like um, building it up too quickly, but allowing Caitlin to explore it, but then also feel fear and anxiety around it. I thought it was really well portrayed. How did you feel about that aspect of the show?
I think it's well done. That's probably the best, probably the lasting impact of the show thematically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's played with a lot of tact because over the course of an 8-episode season, it comes up slowly but steadily. You know, like I think it's done well.
Yeah. Cuddy, how did he do?
Cuddy, I thought he was convincing as a kind of shitty dad. You know, like you because you understand, like it's subtle, but you understand it, right? Like he's a conservative black man, and his relationship with a daughter who doesn't align with that makes a lot of sense. I think Cuddy sold it
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. But he's not
Yeah,
like a top. He's not like a top tier actor. It's kind of still stunt cast at the end of the day, like watching Kid Cudi be like an actor. He's getting cast in a lot of stuff. He's really like just Hollywood at this point.
mm-hmm.
But like you could do better than Kid Cudi when it comes to these roles. But I think he's convincing enough.
Yeah, and I actually thought, especially because he's supposed to be this like overarching like control of like his family, while he has a son who um isn't doesn't really believe that that's his dad, and it feels like a part of his identity as a Muslim is being um, you know, uh, held down based on the expectations of his family.
Yeah,
He has his wife is obviously unhappy, doesn't know who she is, exploring herself and her sexuality with the neighbor. Like there's a lot, fraying at the seams under him, and when it all comes to a head after the son's friend dies in a convoy explosion. I thought that scene was like made total sense. The plotting of the show just made sense the whole time, which was really nice. And you got allowed Cuddy to just be drunk and ridiculous, which is kind of cool.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to shout out episode 4. That's the
Yeah.
one where they go to the pool. They have that wedding. Like it represented a lot of things I like dislike about the show, because you have these really impulsive childlike decisions, right? This like uh turn of the moment engagement wedding, right?
Mhm.
But then you have all these kids being really reckless, being very much kids, and just kind of acting a fool at this not abandoned, empty, you know, like mini mansion,
Mansion.
right? And in
Yep.
the process, you get like rapid like sensory overload. You get a lot of Luca did this throughout the season. We get a lot of those like still shots where he pauses the frame for a few seconds,
Yep.
which is kind of an interesting touch because he would do it at precise moments. A lot of these quick cuts too, where it's like I think of like when it's all blue and they're like all slow dancing when they're like barely coherent at that point, and then it cuts again and it's like different people dancing. It's like a lot of like flourishes with the
Mm-hmm.
camera, and I don't know, like that, like when they're all like getting fucked up and like getting touchy feely and all that. I was like, wow, this is like kind of like the pure it of the show, and that's where I couldn't look away. I was like, this is something, you know, and like uh, Jack Dylan Grazer's kind of hilarious when he's just playing Frasier fucked up. He's like barely able to walk and stuff. It's like that kind of like stuff. It's definitely lower stakes than the more serious subject matter that happens later in the season. But that episode
Yeah.
in particular definitely stood out to me just for being unlike a lot of things I saw this year.
Well, and I don't know if it's right to necessarily frame this in the shadow of Call Me by Your Name, but we talked about the similarities that were there when the season started, and I think it brings you back to Elio, and I'm forgetting the other one's name. I'm sorry, but riding through
Army Hammer, we call him.
yes, Army Hammer, riding through the countryside, laying underneath the tree, like reading books, going to that club and dancing. Like it brings you to all those things you really love about Call Me by Your Name, that kind of create that world and make it a fun world to be in. Obviously, having a much stronger, I think, love story at the center of it. Um, and that kind of brings me to one last question I had, which is how did you feel about how the show ended, which is Fraser and Caitlin finally come together and kiss at the end, when that's kind of been like a running like will they won't they through the season. Did you find that to be a satisfying ending? Did you feel earned? Do you feel it was earned?
Yeah, I think it's earned enough. Kind of, I guess there's a logical endpoint. I'm fine with it. I did see Lucas say that him and his co-writers have made a Bible for a season two due to quarantine and having time to do exactly that. It has not been renewed by HBO at this time, but I actually kind of like it as is. Like I feel like for what it was going for, I think it kind of wrapped up well. I don't know if there's a lot to gain by going back to the well, but
Hmm.
maybe bigger fans of the show than mine would disagree.
Yeah, I'm. I don't know if I necessarily want to see more of it, especially because it seems like Caitlin and Fraser are going to be in different areas, and maybe something about them coming back together will be the through line. But um, I want to see Luca doing different stuff, exploring other things. But whatever he wants to do, really, I think will come out great. So we are who we are. I think I would consider this a success for HBO. Definitely something I've recommended to a few people in my life. So check it out if you haven't.